The morning sun was already getting hot when Jake wiped his dirty hands on an old rag. His small boat repair shop sat right by the water, and he could smell the salt air mixed with engine oil. At 32 years old, Jake had been fixing boats for almost 15 years. He liked working with his hands better than talking to people most days. Jake had learned the hard way that people could let you down, but machines were honest. If something was broken, you could see it. If you fixed it right, it would work. No lies, no broken promises, just simple truth. That's why he spent most of his time alone in his shop, surrounded by boat engines and spare parts. His divorce 2 years ago had left him feeling like a fool. His ex-wife had taken half of everything and moved to the city with her new boyfriend. Jake decided he didn't need all that drama anymore. He had his work, his small house by the marina, and his peace of mind. That was enough. The afternoon was quiet until he heard voices outside. Jake looked up from the engine he was working on and saw 2 young women walking toward his shop. They looked exactly the same, like they were twins. Both had long dark hair and were wearing simple white clothes. There was something different about them, something that made Jake stop what he was doing and really look. They walked in a way that seemed almost like they were floating. Their skin looked perfect, like they had never spent a day in the sun. When they got closer, Jake could see their eyes were the darkest brown he had ever seen, almost black. They looked worried. "Excuse me," one of them said in English that sounded a little strange. She spoke clearly, but there was an accent Jake couldn't place. "Are you the mechanic who fixes boats?" "That's me," Jake said, putting down his wrench. "What can I do for you?" The other twin stepped forward. "My name is Luna, and this is my sister Nova. Our boat broke down in the ocean. The Coast Guard brought us here. They said you might be able to help us." Jake had heard about the Coast Guard tow that morning. Word traveled fast in a small marina town. "What kind of boat is it?" "It's different," Nova said, looking at her. "Sister. Other mechanics said they couldn't fix it. You're our last hope." There was something in the way she said it that made Jake curious. In all his years fixing boats, he had never met an engine he couldn't figure out. "Let me take a look." "Where is it?" The twins led him down to the far end of the marina where the Coast Guard had tied up their boat. When Jake saw it, he stopped walking and just stared. The boat was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was about 30 feet long, but shaped in a way that looked more like it belonged in space than in the ocean. The hull was smooth and white, with no visible joints or seams. It looked like it had been carved from one giant piece of some material Jake didn't recognize. There were no visible bolts, screws, or welds anywhere. The windows were tinted so dark he couldn't see inside. "What in the world is this thing?" Jake asked, walking around the boat slowly. "It's from our homeland," Luna said quietly. "We live on a small island very far from here. Our people build things differently." Jake had traveled to many places when he was younger, working on different kinds of boats. He had fixed everything from old wooden fishing boats to million-dollar yachts, but this was completely new to him. "Can you open the engine compartment?" he asked. Nova pressed her hand against what looked like a solid part of the hull. Suddenly, a section of the boat opened up like it was alive. Jake's mouth fell open. Inside, he could see machinery that looked like it came from the future. The engine wasn't like any marine engine he knew. Instead of the usual big diesel or gas engine, there were smooth metal boxes connected by cables that seemed to glow with a soft blue light. Everything was clean and quiet. There was no smell of oil or gas. "How does this thing work?" Jake asked, leaning in for a closer look. "We don't really know," Nova admitted. "At home, machines fix themselves. We've never had to learn how they work. We just use them." Luna nodded. "When something breaks, we usually just get a new one. But we're so far from home, and this is our only way back to our family." Jake could hear the worry in their voices. Whatever island they came from, it must be really far away if they couldn't just call for help. He looked at the strange engine again. It was like nothing he had ever seen, but that just made it more interesting. "I can't promise anything," Jake said finally. "This is way different from what I usually work on, but I'll try my best." Both twins smiled at the same time, and Jake felt something warm in his chest. It had been a long time since anyone had looked at him like he was their hero. "Thank you," Luna said. "We'll pay you well for your help." "How long do you think it will take?" Nova asked. Jake scratched his head. "Hard to say. I need to figure out how this thing even works first. Could be days, could be weeks. You got somewhere to stay?" The twins looked at each other with concern. "We didn't plan for a long stay," Luna said. "There's a small hotel in town," Jake offered. "Mrs. Chen runs it. She's nice and won't charge you too much." As the sun started to set, Jake found himself thinking about the strange boat and the two mysterious women. He had always prided himself on being able to fix anything, but this would be his biggest challenge yet. Something told him his quiet, simple life was about to get a lot more complicated. Jake woke up earlier than usual the next morning. He couldn't stop thinking about that strange boat and the two sisters who needed his help. After a quick cup of coffee, he walked down to the marina while the sun was still low in the sky. Luna and Nova were already waiting by their boat. They looked like they hadn't slept much either. Both were wearing the same simple white clothes from yesterday, but now Jake noticed how perfectly clean they were. Not a single wrinkle or stain, which seemed impossible after spending time on a boat. "Good morning," Luna said with a smile that made Jake's day feel brighter already. "We brought you something." Nova held out a container that looked like it was made from the same mysterious material as their boat. When she opened it, the most amazing smell filled the air. Inside were small, round things that looked like bread, but they glowed with a soft, golden light. "Food from our homeland," Nova explained. "We thought you might be hungry." Jake had never seen anything like it, but he was hungry, and it smelled incredible. He took a bite and his eyes went wide. It tasted better than anything he had ever eaten. It was sweet and savory at the same time, and it made him feel more awake and energetic than 3 cups of coffee. "This is amazing," Jake said, taking another bite. "What is it?" "We call it morning bread," Luna said. "It grows on special trees on our island." Jake wanted to ask more questions, but the boat was waiting. He grabbed his toolbox and climbed aboard. When Nova opened the engine compartment again, Jake took a deep breath and got to work. The first thing he did was try to understand what he was looking at. There were no labels or numbers on anything. The metal boxes were smooth and warm to the touch. The glowing cables seemed to pulse with energy like they were alive. "Can you tell me what happened when it broke down?" Jake asked. "We were traveling for many days," Nova said. "Everything was working fine, and then suddenly the boat just stopped moving. The lights went out and we couldn't make it go." "Did you hear any strange noises? Smell anything burning?" Both sisters shook their heads. "It was completely quiet," Luna said. "One moment we were moving, the next we were just floating." Jake nodded and started looking for anything that seemed damaged. In a normal boat engine, he would look for broken belts, leaking fluids, or burned wires. But this engine was like nothing he had ever seen. The twins watched him work with intense curiosity. Every time he touched something or moved a tool, they leaned in closer to see what he was doing. "Why do you tap on things with that metal stick?" Nova asked, watching him use a small hammer to test connections. "Sometimes you can hear if something is loose or cracked," Jake explained. "Different sounds tell you different things." "That's so clever," Luna said. "At home, our machines just tell us what's wrong with words that appear in the air." Jake stopped working and looked at them. "Words that appear in the air?" "Like this," Nova said. She touched a smooth panel on the wall, and suddenly glowing letters appeared floating above it. Jake couldn't read the symbols, but they were definitely some kind of writing. "Incredible," Jake whispered. He had heard about new technology, but this was beyond anything he could imagine. As the day went on, Jake started to figure out how the engine worked. It wasn't powered by gas or diesel like normal boats. Instead, it seemed to run on some kind of energy that came from the glowing cables. The metal boxes were like computers, but much more advanced than anything on Earth. "You know," Jake said, wiping sweat from his forehead, "I've been fixing engines for 15 years, and I learn something new every day. But this is like learning a whole new language." "You're very smart," Luna said. "Most people we've met couldn't understand even simple things about our technology." "Where exactly is your island?" Jake asked. He had been wondering about this all day. The twins looked at each other nervously. "It's very far away," Nova said finally, "in a part of the ocean that doesn't appear on your maps. Our people like to stay hidden," Luna added. "We only leave the island when we absolutely have to." Jake could tell there was more to the story, but he didn't push. Everyone had secrets, and these two seemed like good people who were just trying to get home. By afternoon, Jake had found what he thought was the problem. One of the metal boxes had a hairline crack that was so small he almost missed it. But when he looked closer with a magnifying glass, he could see that the crack went all the way through. "I think this is your problem," he said, pointing to the damaged box. "But I have no idea how to fix it. I've never seen metal like this before." Both sisters looked worried. "Can you make it work somehow?" Nova asked. Jake scratched his head and thought hard. He had built his reputation on being able to fix anything, but this was testing his limits. "Maybe," he said slowly. "I might be able to bypass this damaged part and reroute the power through a different path. It won't be pretty and it won't be permanent, but it might get you home." "You would do that for us?" Luna asked, her dark eyes shining with hope. "I'll try my best," Jake promised. "But it's going to take time. This is the most complex repair I've ever attempted." As the sun set on his second day working on their boat, Jake realized something had changed. For the first time in 2 years, he was excited about something. Not just the challenge of fixing the impossible engine, but spending time with Luna and Nova. They were unlike anyone he had ever met. They asked questions about everything, from how his tools worked to why the seagulls made so much noise. They seemed amazed by the simplest things, like watching him drink water from a plastic bottle or seeing him write notes on paper. "Tomorrow," Jake said, packing up his tools, "I'm going to try something that's either brilliant or completely crazy." "We trust you," both sisters said at the same time, which made Jake smile. Walking back to his house that night, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that these two mysterious women were going to change his life in ways he couldn't even imagine. 2 weeks had passed since Jake started working on the mysterious boat, and his whole world had changed without him even realizing it. Every morning, he would wake up excited to see Luna and Nova waiting by the marina. They had become part of his daily routine, and he couldn't imagine his days without them anymore. The repair work was going slower than Jake had hoped, but somehow he didn't mind. Every time he solved one problem, he would discover 2 more. The boat's technology was so advanced that each small fix required him to learn completely new ways of thinking about engines and power systems. "You're different from other people we've met," Nova said one afternoon while watching Jake carefully adjust a tiny component with tweezers. "Most humans give up when things get too difficult." Jake looked up from his work. "Most humans? That's a funny way to put it." Luna quickly spoke up. "She means most people from around here. Where we come from, people think differently about problems." Jake was starting to notice that the sisters sometimes said strange things, but he figured it was just because English wasn't their first language. He was more interested in getting to know them as people. During lunch breaks, they would sit together on the dock and talk about everything. Jake learned that the twins had never seen a movie, didn't know what pizza was, and had never heard music played on a radio, but they were incredibly smart and asked questions that made him think about his own world in new ways. "Why do people here work jobs they don't like?" Luna asked one day while they watched other boat owners coming and going from the marina. "Well," Jake said, thinking about it. Sometimes you have to do things you don't love to pay for the things you need. That seems sad, Nova said. On our island, everyone does what they're good at and what makes them happy. Sounds like paradise. Jake laughed, but he could see they were serious. The more time he spent with them, the more Jake realized how lonely he had been. After his divorce, he thought he wanted to be alone. But Luna and Nova made him remember how good it felt to have people who cared about what happened to him. They brought him food every day now, always something different and amazing. They would ask about his childhood, his dreams, his fears. They listened to everything he said like it was the most important thing in the world. "Tell us about your family," Nova asked one evening as they watched the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. "Not much to tell," Jake said. "My parents died when I was young. I learned to fix engines from my uncle, but he passed away 5 years ago. My ex-wife, well, that didn't work out." "You seem lonely," Luna said softly. "Is that why you like to work alone?" Jake had never talked about his feelings with anyone, but something about the twins made him want to be honest. "I guess I got tired of being disappointed by people. Engines don't lie to you or leave you for someone else." Both sisters looked at him with such kind eyes that Jake felt his chest tighten with emotion he hadn't felt in years. "Not all people are the same," Nova said. "Some people stay. Some people care," Luna added. As the days passed, Jake found himself working more carefully, taking longer with each repair. He told himself it was because the technology was so complex. But deep down, he knew the truth. He didn't want Luna and Nova to leave. The twins seemed to feel the same way. They started arriving earlier each morning and staying later each evening. Instead of just watching him work, they began helping in small ways. Nova had incredibly steady hands and could hold tiny parts while Jake soldered connections. Luna had an amazing memory and could remember exactly where every tool belonged. "You're both natural mechanics," Jake told them one day after they had helped him complete a particularly difficult repair. "You learn faster than anyone I've ever taught." "We like learning from you," Luna said with a smile that made Jake's heart skip. "You make everything seem possible," Nova added. One evening, after a particularly good day of progress on the engine, the three of them were sitting on the dock sharing dinner. Jake had brought sandwiches from the local deli, and the twins had contributed more of their amazing island food. "Jake," Luna said quietly, "can we ask you something?" "Sure, anything." "What would you say if we told you that when our boat is fixed, we want you to come with us?" Jake nearly choked on his sandwich. "Come with you where?" "To our island," Nova said, her dark eyes serious. "Our people would welcome you. They need someone with your skills and your way of thinking. But more than that," Luna continued, "we need you. These weeks with you have been the happiest time of our lives." Jake stared at them, his mind racing. Leave everything behind? Go to some mysterious island with two women he had known for only 2 weeks? "I don't understand," he said slowly. "You barely know me." "We know enough," Nova said firmly. "We know you're kind and honest, and you never give up on difficult problems. We know you make us laugh and feel safe," Luna added. "We know that when we're with you, everything feels right." Jake looked out over the water, his thoughts spinning. 2 weeks ago, his biggest worry was whether he had enough customers to pay his bills. Now these two incredible women were asking him to completely change his life. "Think about it," Nova said gently. "You don't have to decide right now." But Jake was already thinking about it. He was thinking about how empty his life had felt before they arrived. He was thinking about going back to working alone in his shop after they left. He was thinking about never seeing their smiles again, or hearing their laughter. "Your island," he said finally. "What's it really like?" The twins looked at each other, and Jake could see they were having some kind of silent conversation with their eyes. "It's beautiful," Luna said carefully, "and peaceful, and very different from here." "Different how?" "You would have to see it, to understand." Nova said. "But we promise you would like it, and you would be respected there. Your talents would be appreciated." As they walked back toward town that night, Jake felt like he was standing at the edge of a cliff. Behind him was his safe, predictable life. Ahead was the unknown, but also the possibility of something amazing. For the first time in years, Jake wasn't afraid of taking a risk. Jake couldn't sleep that night. He lay in his bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about what Luna and Nova had asked him. Come with them to their island? Leave everything he had built here? The idea was both terrifying and exciting at the same time. He got up before dawn and walked to the marina. The morning air was cool, and the water was so still it looked like glass. Jake sat on the dock and watched the sun come up, trying to make sense of his feelings. On one hand, he had a good life here. His repair shop was doing well, people respected his work, and he had finally found peace after his divorce. He owned his house, had money in the bank, and knew everyone in town. It was safe and predictable, but on the other hand, he had never felt as alive as he did when he was with the twins. They made him laugh, they challenged his thinking, and they looked at him like he was the most important person in the world. When was the last time anyone had made him feel that special? "You're up early," a voice said behind him. Jake turned and saw Luna walking down the dock toward him. She was wearing a long white dress that seemed to glow in the morning light. Her dark hair was loose around her shoulders, and she looked more beautiful than ever. "Couldn't sleep," Jake admitted. Luna sat down beside him on the dock. "Neither. Could I? Did we upset you last night with our question?" "No, not upset. Just thinking." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the water lap against the boats. Finally, Luna spoke again. "Can I tell you something about our island?" "Please." Luna took a deep breath. "It's not like any place you've ever seen. The technology there is hundreds of years ahead of what you have here. We have machines that can heal any injury, computers that think like people, and energy sources that never run out." Jake listened carefully. "Sounds incredible." "It is. But Jake, with all that amazing technology, do you know what we don't have?" "What?" "Heart. Soul. The human touch that makes things special." Luna looked at him with those deep, dark eyes. "Everything on our island works perfectly, but it's cold. There's no struggle, no challenge, no satisfaction from fixing something with your own hands." Jake was starting to understand. "That's why you've been so fascinated watching me work." "Exactly. You don't just fix engines, Jake. You understand them. You feel them. You have a connection with your work that our people have lost." Nova appeared at the other end of the dock, walking toward them with her usual graceful steps. "I hoped I'd find you both here," she said, sitting down on Jake's other side. "I was just telling Jake about home," Luna said. Nova nodded. "Jake, our leaders have been watching the progress reports we send them about the repair. They're amazed by what you've accomplished with such simple tools." "You've been sending reports?" Jake asked. "We had to let them know we were safe," Nova explained. "But when we told them about you, about your skills and your approach to problems, they became very interested." Luna continued the story. "They've offered you a position as head of our mechanical systems department. It would mean leading a team of our best engineers and teaching them your methods." "But that's not why we want you to come," Nova added quickly. "The job is wonderful, but we want you there because of who you are, not just what you can do." Jake felt overwhelmed. "This is all happening so fast. 3 weeks ago, I didn't even know you existed. Now you're asking me to change my entire life." "We know it's a lot," Luna said softly. "But Jake," Nova said, "what if we told you that staying with us wouldn't just change your life? What if it could change our entire civilization?" Jake looked at her with confusion. "What do you mean?" The twins exchanged one of their silent looks again. Luna spoke carefully. "Our people have become too dependent on technology. We've forgotten how to solve problems with creativity and determination. We need someone who can teach us to think differently. You mean someone like me? Not someone like you, Nova said with a smile. We mean you, specifically. In just 3 weeks, you've done something our best engineers said was impossible. You fixed our ship using nothing but basic tools and human ingenuity. Jake felt a warm feeling in his chest. Nobody had ever told him he was special or important before. His ex-wife had always made him feel like he wasn't good enough, but Luna and Nova saw something in him that he had never seen in himself. There's something else, Luna said hesitantly. Our island doesn't appear on any of your maps because it's not exactly in this world. Jake frowned. What do you mean? It exists in a place between worlds, Nova tried to explain. We can travel between different realities. That's how our technology became so advanced. We learned from many different civilizations. Jake's head was spinning. Are you saying you're not from Earth? We are and we aren't, Luna said. Our ancestors came from here long ago, but they discovered how to travel to other dimensions. Our island exists in a space where the laws of physics work differently. That's why our technology seems so strange to you, Nova added. It's built using principles from multiple realities. Jake stood up and walked to the edge of the dock. This was all too much to process. Parallel dimensions? Other realities? He was just a simple boat mechanic from a small coastal town. I know it sounds crazy, Luna said, walking up behind him. But Jake, what if it's real? What if we're offering you the chance to be part of something bigger than you ever imagined? And what if I can't handle it? What if I'm not smart enough? Or special enough for your world? Nova joined them. Jake, you've already proven you can handle anything. You fixed our ship when nobody else could even understand how it worked. But more importantly, Luna said, taking his hand, you've already changed us. Before we met you, Nova and I felt empty inside. We had everything we could want, but we weren't truly happy. Now we are, Nova said, taking his other hand. For the first time in our lives, we feel complete. Jake looked down at their hands holding his. These two incredible women, with their advanced technology and mysterious origins, were telling him that he made them happy. Him, the guy who had spent 2 years hiding from the world in his repair shop. If I said yes, Jake said slowly, would I ever be able to come back here? Yes, Nova said immediately. The journey between worlds is difficult but not impossible. You could visit Earth whenever you wanted. And if I said no? Jake asked. Both twins looked sad, but Luna answered honestly. Then we would respect your decision and leave as soon as our ship is ready. We would never forget you, but we wouldn't make you feel guilty about choosing your own life. Jake looked out over the water at the town where he had lived for so many years. Everything looked the same as it had yesterday, but somehow it all felt different now. The choice ahead of him would determine not just his future, but the kind of person he wanted to be for the rest of his life. I need some time to think, he said finally. Of course, both twins said together. As they walked back toward the boat to continue working on the repairs, Jake realized that no matter what he decided, his old life was already over. Luna and Nova had shown him possibilities he had never dreamed of, and he could never go back to being the lonely man who was content with just fixing engines. The only question now was whether he had the courage to reach for something extraordinary. The morning Jake finished repairing the boat was gray and cloudy. Storm clouds gathered on the horizon, and the wind made the water choppy. It seemed like even the weather knew this was going to be an important day. Jake had made his decision during the night, but he still felt nervous as he walked to the marina. Luna and Nova were already there, standing beside their boat. The repairs were complete, and the strange engine was humming quietly with that blue glow he had come to recognize. Good morning, Luna said, but her smile seemed forced. Both twins looked worried. Morning, Jake replied, setting down his toolbox. "I've got good news. Your boat is ready to go." "Thank you," Nova said quietly. "We can never repay you for what you've done." Jake had run every test he could think of. The jury-rigged repair he had made was holding strong, and all the boat systems were working perfectly. It was the most complex repair job he had ever completed, and he was proud of the work. But as he looked at Luna and Nova, he realized the boat repair had become the least important part of this whole experience. "Before you go," Jake said, "I need to tell you something." Both twins looked at him with those beautiful dark eyes, waiting. 3 weeks ago, I thought I had my life figured out. I was going to stay here, fix boats, keep to myself, and grow old alone. It seemed like a reasonable plan. "Jake," Luna started, but he held up his hand. "Let me finish. You two came into my life like a storm, and you've turned everything upside down. You've made me question everything I thought I knew about the world and about myself." Nova stepped closer. "Did we do something wrong?" "No, you did everything right. That's the problem." Jake ran his hand through his hair. "You've shown me possibilities I never dreamed of. You've made me feel important and valued and loved." Both twins smiled at that word. "But here's the thing," Jake continued. "I keep thinking about what you said about your island needing someone to teach them about the human touch, about solving problems with creativity and determination." "Yes?" Luna asked hopefully. "Well, I realized that maybe I need to learn about that too. Not just the technical stuff, but the human part. And I think I can learn it from you two." Jake took a deep breath and looked directly at both twins. "The answer is yes. I want to come with you." Luna and Nova both gasped at the same time, then threw their arms around him in a huge hug. Jake felt their tears on his neck and realized he was crying too. "Are you sure?" Nova asked, pulling back to look at his face. "I'm terrified," Jake admitted, "but I've never been more sure of anything in my life." "What about your shop, your house, your life here?" Luna asked. Jake had spent the whole night thinking about this. "I can sell the shop to my assistant, Tom. He's been wanting to buy it for years. The house, too. As for my life here..." Jake looked around the marina one last time. "It was a good life, but it wasn't complete. I was just existing, not really living." "And now?" Nova asked with a smile. "Now I want to see what living really means." The twins led him aboard their boat, and Jake was amazed by how different the interior looked from any boat he had ever been on. Everything was smooth and white, with soft lighting that seemed to come from nowhere. There were no visible controls or instruments, just smooth panels that responded to touch. "This is where you'll sleep during the journey," Luna said, showing him to a room that was bigger than his entire workshop. "The trip will take several days." "How many days?" Jake asked. "Time works differently when you travel between worlds," Nova explained. "It might feel like 3 days to us, but only 1 day will pass here on Earth." Jake nodded like he understood, even though he didn't really. He was learning to accept that there were many things about Luna and Nova's world that he might never fully understand. "Jake," Luna said seriously, "there's something else we need to tell you before we leave." "What?" "The job offer we mentioned, leading our engineering department, that was real, but it's not the main reason our leaders want to meet you." Nova continued the explanation. "They've been studying the reports about how you fixed our ship. They believe you might be the key to solving a big problem our civilization has been facing." "What kind of problem?" "Our people have become too dependent on technology," Luna said. "We've lost the ability to innovate, to think creatively, to solve problems without computers telling us what to do." "But you, Jake," Nova said with excitement in her voice, "you represent something our people have forgotten. You show that sometimes the best solutions come from human instinct and experience, not from advanced calculations." "They want to learn from me?" Jake asked, hardly believing it. They want you to teach our entire civilization how to think like you do, Luna said. How to approach problems with curiosity instead of fear. How to find solutions using creativity and determination. Jake felt overwhelmed again. That's a lot of pressure. You don't have to do it alone, Nova assured him. We'll be with you every step of the way. We're not just bringing you as a teacher, Luna added softly. We're bringing you as our partner in everything. Jake looked at both of them and understood what she meant. This wasn't just about work or adventure. This was about love, about building a life together, about becoming a family, partners in everything, Jake repeated. I like the sound of that. As the boat pulled away from the marina, Jake stood on the deck watching his old life get smaller and smaller. He saw his repair shop, his house, the diner where he ate breakfast every morning. All of it was disappearing behind them. But when he turned around, he saw Luna and Nova smiling at him with such joy and love that he knew he had made the right choice. No regrets? Nova asked. Jake put his arms around both twins and pulled them close. The only thing I regret is that it took me 32 years to find you two. We found each other exactly when we were supposed to, Luna said wisely. As their boat headed toward the horizon, Jake thought about the question they had asked him. Would he stay forever? He still didn't know what forever meant in their world, but he knew one thing for certain. He was ready to find out. The storm clouds parted as they traveled, and the sun broke through, turning the ocean golden. Ahead of them, Jake could see something impossible, what looked like a doorway made of light floating above the water. Ready for the journey of a lifetime? Nova asked. Jake squeezed their hands tighter. With you two? I'm ready for anything, and, as their boat sailed through that doorway of light into whatever world waited beyond, Jake realized that sometimes the best adventures begin when you stop playing it safe and start believing in possibilities you never imagined.